Assetto Corsa Evo is the most important racing simulator since Project Cars 2. That is correct, and I'm going to explain why that is correct in this video. Now, if you want to be angered by what I say and want the enjoyment of unsubscribing, unfortunately you do have to subscribe first. So make sure you subscribe, and then you can click the like button, and you can click it again to unlike it, and then click it again in the future. It's like a fidget spinner, but for your finger. So, a lot of people don't realise how important Project Cars 2 was for PC simulation and simulation in general. And the reason why Project Cars 2 was so important was that it brought a huge number of people to simulation, more serious racing, and more serious driving, as opposed to sort of pure messing around in vehicle driving, than just about any other title. And I would say Project Cars 2 is one of those games where a lot of people played it more so than any other game, and then decided to go, I'm going to buy a PC, I'm going to buy a sim rig, I'm going to buy a wheel, and I'm going to ruin my life with iRacing, Assetto Corsa, R-Factor 2, and, you know, the sort of hardcore simulators. Not that Project Cars 2 isn't a hardcore simulator in its own right. That's another video you could debate and argue about. But Project Cars 2 really brought sim racing to a much wider audience than any other racing game had done at that point in time. Now, I know some of you are immediately going to go, what about Gran Turismo? And yeah, I will concede, I think Gran Turismo is very similar to Project Cars 2 in that regard, and a little bit, the F1 Codemasters F1 games are a little bit similar in that regard. But I think what tends to happen with Gran Turismo, for example, is that the vast majority of people that play Gran Turismo really do tend to just stick in Gran Turismo. And again, same with the Formula 1 games. The vast majority of people that play those are more interested in simulating the sort of Netflix Drive to Survive experience of Formula 1, doing the career mode stuff, and not really the most likely to move over to the sort of hardcore PC simulator side of sim racing, the ultra nerdy, got no life side of sim racing. Now, I'm not saying people don't go from Gran Turismo and F1 to PC sim racing, but I'm saying that those titles don't really transfer people over to the degree that Project Cars 2 did. And I think, personally, that Assetto Corsa Evo will be another title like Project Cars 2 that really brings a hell of a load of people over to the hardcore PC sim racing side of things. Now, at first, AC is only coming out on PC, so it's going to be a while before it gets to console. And I think where that sort of initial audience is, and I say the power of Project Cars 2, was that it gave a simulator experience on the console platform that also worked with the gamepad, that then gave people a taster of how awesome simulators are, the depth that you get out of something with deeper physics and deeper mechanics, the enjoyment that you get out of learning real-world racetracks, and all those sort of more nuanced mechanics that on the face of it don't seem that obvious. They're not the reason you would initially buy the game in the first place, but those deeper mechanics that you only really get with simulators. So it's going to be a while before Assetto Corsa Evo comes out on console. I think that's a crucial part of it. But when it does, I think you're going to get a hell of a lot of people that will play Assetto Corsa Evo, and they'll like the cruising mode stuff that's been announced. They'll really enjoy the road cars, and you'll have noticed already with the early access, a lot of the early access cars are going to be just road cars, and like the original Assetto Corsa, the full release will have a lot of road cars, not just pure race cars. And that also appeals to a much wider audience of player, because, well, people know what road cars are. They don't necessarily know what a Formula Ford is, or an F4 car, or a Radical. They already know the brands of these road cars, so it draws them in through all the branding and awareness, and then gradually gets them towards the actual decent stuff that actually has proper race mechanics as they get more and more addicted and want to get closer to the idea of finessing and driving a car precisely. So I definitely think Evo, especially later on when it actually does come out on console, I genuinely think it will be one of those titles that brings a huge number of new players into the hardcore sim racing space, and a huge number of people that would normally just play games with a gamepad, they will get the taster with something like Evo and really want to get things like steering wheels, pedals, maybe VR headsets, really get into that sort of hardcore simulation side of stuff, and the more sort of serious planned racing, longer races side of things. You have to keep in mind that the vast majority of people that are outside of the sim racing space, anything longer than a 5-lap race is actually almost inconceivable to them. Learning a racetrack is almost inconceivable to them. Understanding stuff like brake bias is almost inconceivable to them. So you really need these games that can lure like a bait on a fishing reel. You need to lure these people into sim racing with the temptation that it's going to get better, little for them to realise that they've been pulled out of the water and then head smashed on a rock. Don't tell them about that part. Just get the bait there and get them over. That is what Evo will do, I feel, and I think it will be, as I say, the biggest thing since Project Cars 2. So it really is important that Kudos don't drop the ball on this for all of sim racing. I think even if Evo was completely terrible, I think sim racing will survive. Obviously, there's a lot of people that are just happy playing iRacing, a lot of people playing AC1 and other simulators. They always will be happy, and I don't think, even if Evo's rubbish, I don't think that will change that. And if Evo's amazing, I don't think it will kill other titles. You see a lot of those YouTube thumbnails where it's like, oh, Evo kill iRacing. No, it doesn't work like that. Obviously, I realise that's just YouTube hyperbole, something I'm not guilty of myself at all, ever. But I do think it's such a big opportunity for sim racing, a big opportunity for Kunos, and it's really going to be interesting to see how this actually pans out. Before we finish off this video, also, I want to dispel some things with Project Cars 2 and some interesting stuff that's happened with Project Cars 2 and its perception over the years, in how that at its launch, Project Cars 2 was sort of snubbed by many sim racers as being totally rubbish. Sure, a lot of Project Cars 2 had there's loads of janky aspects to it, questionable physics at times and weirdness to it, lots of bugs. However, Project Cars 2 also had absolutely amazing depth to it, ability to tweak things, content was incredible, the cars were incredible, the actual handling was really good fun, especially the radical that was in Project Cars 2, the Clio Cup, the damage effects on the vehicles, the fact that you had the rallycross, which was absolutely superb and really fun, and then also the actual quality of the tyres worked off-road as well as on the track, and it's actually a really quite good deep simulator racing game, or as people like to call it, a Simcade title. I think the word Simcade is stupid but I think Project Cars 2 got so much stick that from sim racers, and then on the other side got so much hype from the sort of World of Mass development fanboys. For those of you that don't know, Project Cars 1 had this sort of crowd-funded development process, which then created this really cult-like user base, because people literally invested a lot of time and money into that game, and then they got a payback when the game sold as part of Project Mass WMD, World of Mass Development. They got money back, so there was this whole bizarro religion around the game and cult that was even worse in many ways than what you see in the cults behind every simulator and any video game. So you had this snubbing from sim fans, and you had this weird bizarro cult. But if you ignore all of that, and in between all of that, with Project Cars 2, on aggregate, you actually had something that was really, really quite special. And I personally think it's actually such a shame what happened with Project Cars 3, to be honest. And yeah, you could argue that Automobilista 2 is kind of like the ultimate polished version of Project Cars 2 and really did fix things and do a whole bunch of stuff. But I think Automobilista 2, though it's built on the Madness engine and has a lot of aspects that are similar to Project Cars 2, Automobilista 2 is its own kind of thing, its own culture, is separate again. So I just think it's a shame what happened with Project Cars 2 and Project Cars 3, and it's a shame how it's perceived given how really amazing some aspects of it were. We used to live stream it and race it a lot. But yeah, anyway, Assetto Corsa Evo, I think it could be really, really important for the growth of sim racing. I think everyone knows this. And, well, it's 2 days to go, so we'll find out. We will find out, won't we? Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. I'm sure you will. I was really surprised with some of the videos we've been doing recently, how positive so many of the comments have been. And also, I know I'm not that good at communicating a lot of ideas. My brain is like a web of weird stuff, and then it kind of darts around. I don't think in a particularly linear way, so I find it very hard to explain stuff clearly in a linear way, if that makes sense, with a structure to it that's easy for you guys to follow. So I'm genuinely surprised when we get hundreds of comments of people that actually really understood what we were saying and, then added to it. And I think that's really awesome, and I really appreciate that. So, yeah, well, on that note, grab yourselves a cup of tea, drink it, and bang your forehead with a soggy fish. Take care, thanks for watching, and goodbye, everyone.